The email came late Friday afternoon, the kind that lands in your inbox just when most people are mentally packing up for the weekend. Subject line: Project Reassignment. I opened it expecting some small adjustment. Maybe another developer joining the team. Maybe a new feature request from product. Instead, it was 2 short paragraphs. Leadership had decided to provide a growth opportunity for one of the interns. Starting next week, the main repository I had been building for the past 8 months would transition to him as the new project owner. There were the usual polite phrases: fresh perspective, team development, shared responsibility. I read the message twice. Then I looked across the office floor where the intern sat near the windows, headphones on, typing carefully with the kind of concentration that comes from not wanting to break anything. He seemed like a decent kid. Nervous, eager to prove himself. This wasn't really about him. The announcement happened 10 minutes later during the weekly wrap-up meeting. Our manager explained it casually, like a schedule change. "We think it'll be a good learning experience," she said. A few people nodded, no one looked at me. The intern smiled politely, though the expression carried a hint of confusion. He probably knew the project had grown complicated. Everyone did. But from the outside it still looked manageable. The dashboards were clean, the deployments mostly smooth. That was the strange part about infrastructure work. If you do it right, it disappears. After the meeting, I went back to my desk and opened the repository. The codebase wasn't enormous, but it had layers. Authentication pipelines, automated deployments, monitoring hooks. Small fixes accumulated over months when something failed quietly at 2 in the morning. A lot of it wasn't written down anywhere. For a moment I considered sending a long message explaining everything. A full architectural breakdown, a list of operational responsibilities. The invisible things that kept the system stable. But the email had been clear. Ownership had changed. So I decided to treat that statement literally. I closed my laptop and went home for the weekend. Sunday evening I logged in again. Not to undo anything. Not to sabotage anything. Just to complete the transition that had already been announced. Repository ownership was migrated to the intern's account. Access permissions updated across the CI pipelines. Deployment credentials reassigned to the project owner role instead of my admin profile. Every step documented carefully in the internal logs. When I finished, the system was functioning exactly as designed. It simply no longer depended on me hovering quietly in the background. Monday morning arrived with the usual sprint review meeting. A dozen people gathered in the conference room, laptops open, coffee cups scattered across the table. The intern sat at the front with his screen mirrored onto the wall. Our manager smiled encouragingly. "All right," she said. "Let's see how the project is progressing under the new structure." He clicked into the dashboard. For a few seconds everything looked normal. Then he opened the deployment panel. His expression changed slightly. He tried another tab. Then another. "1 second," he said quietly. The room stayed patient at first. A minute passed. Then 2. Someone asked if the staging server was running. He checked again. "It says I don't have permission," he said. Our manager frowned slightly. "That's strange." The intern kept navigating through the interface, encountering small barriers that hadn't existed before. Configuration panels, access tokens, environment settings. Nothing broken. Just no longer pre-configured for him. The conversation slowed. People leaned back in their chairs, watching the screen. Eventually someone asked a simple question. "Who manages the infrastructure access?" The room turned in my direction. I hadn't spoken yet, so I explained calmly. "On Friday the repository and system ownership were reassigned," I said. "I completed the migration Sunday so everything aligns with the new structure. No accusation. Just a statement of fact." A senior engineering director, who had joined the meeting remotely, spoke up through the speakerphone. "Do we have documentation for the deployment architecture?" There was a short pause. "Some of it," I said, "but most of the operational setup evolved over time." Another pause followed. Not hostile, just thoughtful. For the next 15 minutes, the sprint review shifted away from features and toward something more fundamental: who understood the system, how knowledge was shared, and whether the project had been underestimated. No one blamed the intern. That would have been unfair. But the room had grown very quiet. After the meeting ended, people lingered in small groups discussing infrastructure diagrams and knowledge transfer plans. Later that afternoon, my calendar began filling with new invitations. Architecture review, documentation planning, system walkthroughs. No apologies came with them. None were necessary. That evening I shut down my laptop and walked out of the office into the fading light of the parking lot. The project still existed. The team still existed. But something subtle had shifted. For months I had been making things easier for everyone by quietly absorbing complexity. Now the complexity was visible. And strangely, that felt like a kind of balance.